die, because there are times when you go to these conventions and you sell these books, and then, and I'm sure you have these stories too, to where no one's looking at my table.
Oh, yeah.
And then you just want to just pack it up and leave and everything. Next thing you know, you have a line. They just kind of wait for you to leave the table for a while, and then you come back, and sort of a life-giving effect to it.
I recommend, if that happens to any publisher out there, cartoonist, go to the bar in the hotel and then come back, and things will be excellent. I was talking about this to another guest of mine, I think last week, Blair Kitchen, and yeah, you're absolutely right, though, yeah. But, that's some of the fun part about self-publishing, because, you got to promote it yourself besides doing all the work. Yeah, you got to go to these conventions, or you should.
Well, you're the only PR person, better.
Right.
And to sell your own product.
Absolutely.
Because what I do here is, aspect of production is, you're doing the work of 5 people.
Wow.
Not only that you're the brainchild of what you consider is your baby on there, you're also writing the story, you're penciling it, you're inking it, you put your special zipatone on there,
right?
Just to give it some shape for your black and white, and you letter it, with the printing and everything, and you're even the janitor. You got to clean up your own mess.
That's right.
You can have room for without the next issue.
You got to rely on yourself and do it all,
Exactly.
I think that's why so many of us Mexican-American cartoonists, self-publishing, okay, we'll do it. Is that all you got to do? All the work? Okay, no problem.
Yeah, that's right, And a lot of people do not know it and how exhausting it is.
Oh, boy.
Also fun at the same time.
Right.
You're enjoying your experience of what one does. One just doing the inking out here. It's a new experience for you. Yeah, I kind of learned almost the hard way, because there was hardly anybody to hold my hand, show me what I have to learn all this through mistakes and through other people's experience and what they had to go through.
Right. I think self-publishing is one of those just great and crazy and scary, ultimate on-the-job training type of experiences, honestly.
Exactly.
Let's talk about the conventions, because that's always interesting to hear other people's experiences. So your big debut, I guess, was at Comic-Con that year, '93, or did you probably did some Texas shows, I imagine?
I did some Texas shows prior to the Comic-Con.
Right.
It was on October '93 that I debuted this at Peace Comics here in Dallas, and I sold out within a month.
Wow.
5,000 copies. First up.
Yeah, very good numbers for self-publishing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I find it surprising, and it did really good. Then following year, I believe I did San Diego, where I met you and Rafa and Carlos.
Oh yeah, Carlos Aldana.
All at the same time.
Yeah.
Same day.
Wow.
That's how I first got to know the host of the radio show here.
Oh, just a wee lad back in the, mid-90s. Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, I gotta say, because, we got you here and, got the listeners, listening. That's what listeners do, they listen. Richard, when you started your comic, you were getting some pretty good, coverage in, the mainstream press. And I noticed one day I was down at a library, because I was thinking of self-publishing. And again, back then that's such a weird, wow, what is self-publishing? How do you do that? And I wanted to do a Latino character. So I would just start looking at, different things. I was looking through a lot of the, Hispanic culture magazines, particularly Hispanic magazines. So I picked up a copy one day at the library and just leafing through it. And there was a little article there on this, young whippersnapper there, Richard Dominguez out from Texas, debuting a brand new, self-published comic book, El Gato Negro. So when I saw that, I remember just, thinking man, you know what? Okay, I definitely need to really pursue the self-publishing. Here's a guy out in Texas, another Mexican-American who did his own character. So, yeah, you definitely gave me a spark of inspiration there, which I am to this day very thankful for, and I'm glad to, here we are 10, 12 years later, here I'm interviewing you on this little radio show I got. So it's been full circle for me, sir, so thank you so much.
All right. And that, that's the only reward that I, can accept right there, only that I inspired, others to do that. But, others, I wouldn't have gone through all this if there wasn't somebody who inspired me.
Right.
And there was one particular person who inspired me, and that was a criminal judge in Corpus Christi, Texas. And by the name of Judge Margarito Garza. And he is the creator of the very first Mexican-American superhero in American comics, entitled Relámpago.
Yeah.
I think in English. And I discovered that comic book at a half price bookstore in Texas. And during that time again, I was still creating in GATO Negro, trying to create entry.
Right.
And I was going through some ideas, going through some comics in a bookstore, and I ran into a copy of Relámpago in a quarter bid box. They were going to throw away, but they said, "Hey, we'll just sell these for quarters and see how much we get."
Right.
And I saw this, I said, "Wow, it's Mexican American superhero," and it also had a byline to it, America's first American superhero. And that's what caught my eye.
Right. Yeah.
And and surprisingly, it had a phone number inside comic book.
Wow.
Of the owner and the creator on there. He also, not only that, he created his own comic book creation on there with a criminal judge. He also owned a comic book store.
Wow, interesting.
All the great elements there.
Right, yeah.
So, I gave him a call and kind of congratulated him. Told that I was now a fan of Relámpago, and he was very impressed. Wanted to know what I did, and I told him I was a cartoonist. And we talked about trying to revive, at that time, Relámpago. And this was prior to the creation of El Gato Negro. And so he would say, well, I'm working a lot more as a criminal judge, kind of in all food, jail.
Yeah.
At times. He was a very hard-nosed and very controversial Corpus Christi. Very hard-nosed. I mean, he was a true crime fighter.
Right. Like Judge Dredd.
Yeah. And so every time that I would call him up and say, hey, we'll do this little crossover here. Crossover meaning, he was thinking about resurrecting Relámpago at that time.
Right.
And wondered if he could do the artwork for him.
Oh, wow.
Artists at that time ended up moving to the West Coast, become a photographer. And so he was trying to look for an artist for a long time. He was looking for an artist to do his comic books once again. So every time I would call him up, and inside my coals were burning, trying to get something going and get a comic book going. And every time he would say, well, I'm so tired. He was being real nice.
Right.
About it. There were times when he would forget about it. He would work so hard, his long hours. Just wanted to relax. And I said, well, at that time, I came out with the book El Gato Negro, and he sold it as his comic book store.
Wow, very cool.
And at that time, he found out that I was the creator, writer on that. So he knew that I meant business at that time. So he called me up one time and wanted to know if I was still interested in doing the artwork again. But at this time, he wanted to do a crossover